What's up, squad? It's Brandon from the Bantu Sun. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, who are we talking about today? You guessed it, President Trump. This is so telling geopolitically. Last president, President Biden, when he was in office, he he wasn't out and about a lot, and it really reflected in the news. You heard a lot more about countries such as Turkey and Erdogan and a lot of the major players in the world in general. You had a lot more in the news. But the news today and a lot of interesting stories are coming out of the United States with President Trump's administration. And the reason why is because you have the president of what some argue is the most powerful country on the planet who is doing things at a feverish pace in a radical way. And today is no different. So, President Trump has just ended the license that's required to operate in Venezuela. He has just ended this license for Chevron. So Chevron is a $300 billion oil company. They are no small piece. This is a big, big company. In fact, it is expected that in 2024 alone, what's reported is around $6.7 million of lobbying just for the sole purpose of being able to continue its operations, especially in Venezuela. So, as stated, there's a license required for American company to operate within Venezuela. Venezuela has been historically a contentious relationship between the United States, going back to former President Hugo Chavez and now President Nicolas Maduro. Now, President Biden gave Chevron this license, which operated back in 2022. Going back to 2022, Chevron has had this license to operate and explore and produce oil. In fact, and this is just some hard numbers, Chevron produced about 240,000 barrels of oil from Venezuela a day. Now, that makes about a quarter of Venezuela oil output. This brought in around 58% of the government budget and was accountable for a third of the oil revenues inside of Venezuela. Chevron was a major player within Venezuela. That relationship was very lucrative from both sides. Chevron got to explore and produce oil from the extremely oil wealthy nation of Venezuela, and Venezuela's government was able to use these funds to maintain their sovereignty. Basically, Maduro's rule was funded by oil wealth. This is going to be a major, major issue. This is a game changer. This is why I really wanted to talk about this. This wasn't a story. I found this story a couple pages in, but it wasn't on the cover. But I think this is revolutionary. For those that don't know, Venezuela has the world's largest proven oil reserves. So obviously Chevron can pump this oil out, bring it back to good old USA. They refine the oil into the global markets. Trump has repeatedly stated that he doesn't need Venezuelan oil, or the country doesn't need Venezuelan oil. And what you'll notice is this is very strategic. First, Venezuelan oil became very, very much in demand in America with the Russian sanctions. And what has Trump did, he has started to mend the relationships with Russia in order to replace this oil, to ensure no real oil shocks when Chevron pulls out of Venezuela. So he's mended his relationship with Russia. So he already has somebody to come in to basically supplant or replace Venezuela. And this really puts the screws. Now, what President Trump says the reason he did this was, one, it is he doesn't like Maduro or the Venezuela's regimes. They're being too slow-footed on taking back some of their illegal migrants, in his opinion. So they're not bringing in enough migrants back to Venezuela in a timely fashion. The second thing he says is that there's not enough election reform. Now, I think these are just packaging on the real reason. Don't forget that President Trump just came out with a list of foreign groups that operate transnational criminal organizations. And a lot of them was in Mexico. But there was one in particular that was not. It was one that was operating out of South America. And it's actually from Venezuela. The name of that organization is called Tren de Agua. And this group actually was originated within side of Venezuela. So Tren de Aragua is from Aragua, Venezuela. Now, this group has found much success and spread across a lot of South America, particularly countries on the western side of the country and the North Caribbean, Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, etc., etc. But they've also been found to operate inside the United States as well. Now, Trump has designated them a terrorist organization, which means he can take extreme military measures even with inside the nation of Venezuela. So I put all this together. You have this economic warfare going on with basically cutting off the oil reform, demanding political reform, and then coming down hard on the transnational criminal organizations from the same country. He's really putting the screws to the economy of Venezuela if you look at this in a comprehensive way, from legitimate money to illegitimate money. And you have to think he's really putting this pressure on because he wants some type of change in Venezuela. I get the same feeling I got over Biden in Russia that I'm getting with President Trump in Venezuela. I think he wants Maduro out. I don't think he's a friend of that regime. And Venezuela sitting on the world's largest oil reserves, it's no wonder he would want somebody that close to the United States to be a lot friendlier with the United States. So this is just one story that was interesting. I thought it was extremely strong and antagonistic. And that's why I wanted to bring it up. I'd love to hear your thoughts below. If you have any insights or comments about what's going on between this administration and Venezuela, love to hear below. If you enjoy that content, make sure you like, share, subscribe to the video. And until next time, take care. Bantu up.